It is my honor to invite Professor Shahbaz Khan, the Director of UNESCO Regional Science Bureau for Asia and the Pacific, to give the keynote address. Professor Shahbaz Khan holds a doctorate in civil engineering from the University of Birmingham, United Kingdom. Professor Shahbaz, the mic is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you to all colleagues listening. And it's a wonderful day. We are discussing a very important area, which is about open science. And I will be speaking to a few slides to give you an idea about what UNESCO is doing in this area, and especially we have now what we call a way forward towards a UNESCO recommendation on open science, which is basically to build global consensus on what open science is and how it can be progressed. As was introduced, I am responsible for UNESCO's Regional Science Bureau for Asia and Pacific, based in Jakarta. Next, please. Okay, why UNESCO and open science? First of all, there is an S in UNESCO. So as you see, UN is United Nations, E is education, S is for science, and of course, there is culture for C. So S is very important for UNESCO as science, but also because it's very important for the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. And also, I would like to draw your attention, science is a basic human right. And for fulfillment of most human rights, science plays a very important role. And because UNESCO has a normative power to set the standards globally. Next, please. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the evolution of the open science in UNESCO. So first of all, starting in 2011 with the 36th session of our general conference, there has been an emphasis on a UNESCO strategy on open access to scientific information and research. That has been followed through to the 39th session of the general conference on a UNESCO recommendation on science and scientific researchers. And now we are tasked to have a study about technical, financial, and legal aspects on the desirability of a UNESCO recommendation on open science. And this is where we are, and there is a formal process which I will be introducing to you. Next, please. In the context of so many challenges and issues, SDGs, I'm sure you know, there's 17 of them, all of them very important, about sustainability, about innovative solutions. And basically, we are looking for efficient, transparent, and vibrant scientific community, which is not only stemming from the scientists themselves, but also taking the whole society and science together for delivering what we call the SDGs. Next, please. Okay, why we need open science? Open science, first of all, the need is from the point of view of data, information, and knowledge and technologies, so that we can bridge the digital divides. We also need to be thinking very carefully about evidence-based decisions and policies. And I've given you the example of the Sustainable Development Goals. For example, if you take the Sustainable Development Goal number 13 about climate change, so any decisions for climate change need to be underpinned by evidence-based science and data. And then also very importantly, how global science, technology, innovation standards and governance can work together for setting us for the right kind of information, for right decisions, for moving societies forward. Also very importantly, there are serious gaps in terms of our capacity, in terms of the quality of science in different parts of the world, and also in terms of the capacity of the scientists themselves. So how can we have a culture of open science which can help us fill those gaps? Next, please. So there are a lot of words on this slide, but basically this is about the whole scientific process, from the hypothesis to the methods and developments, to the data collection, to data analysis, peer review, publications, looking into how do we distribute knowledge, how do we use it, And all of this process has to be democratized in the way that we truly understand the drivers, as well as we enable the true achievement of all societies. And that's where the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which are for the benefit of all nations, how open science can help towards the true drivers which enable a true achievement for sustainability towards the Sustainable Development Goals. Next, please. So open science allows us for flow of scientific information, for data, and for outputs to be more widely accessible. So open access is a key word, and also more reliably, how do we harness data through open data with the active engagement of all stakeholders, so basically open society. So in this diagram, you can see a number of very important challenges open science has to unlock those challenges, like the open access, the open infrastructure, open educational resources, open data, open labs, crowdsourcing, open notebooks, also looking into open information, citizen science, open evaluation, and open hardware. All societies have to work together to achieve them. Next, please. So basically, the aim is to make science more connected to society and its needs, promoting equal opportunities for all scientists, young or old, from the countries who are more advanced or countries who are developing, for policymakers and for the citizens. Because open science can be a real game changer, bridging the science technology innovation gaps between and within countries and fulfilling science as a human right. So right now we have the COVID situation where the virus related research, the vaccines, the different technologies, everyone needs to have access to them, but there are many similar challenges like access to water, making sure there is no poverty, making sure we can deal with the climate change, there are decent jobs. So all of them needs science as a basic human right. Next, please. So what do we do to have this as a true movement across the world? So that's where we need to looking into how do we open the gates of knowledge, how investors, entrepreneurs, policymakers, and citizens join this call. It's not that whether it will happen or not, it's already happening. Open science is happening, but how everyone can contribute and benefit from this transition, and how do we define the open science, making sure that the knowledge continues at the highest level of quality and the benefits can be realized in the best possible way, and of course making sure all the challenges related to intellectual property and making sure the people have the proper acknowledgements, and how investors and policymakers are continuing to invest into open science. So those are the challenges. Next, please. So there is still a lot of fragmented scientific and policy environment. The global understanding of the meaning, opportunities, and challenges of open science are still missing. So today's webinar is also very important. That's where the 40th session of the General Conference of UNESCO, 193 member states, including APEC economies, tasked UNESCO with the development of an international standard-setting instrument on open science in the form of a UNESCO recommendation on open science. So that's the background to UNESCO's recommendation. Next, please. So what do we do to build a global consensus? So for that, we need to have an inclusive, transparent, and consultative process which should involve all countries and all stakeholders. Also, there should be shared values and principles for open science. There should be concrete measures to open access and open data, with proposals for action, bringing citizens closer to science, and commitments for better distribution and production of science in the world. We are right now in the middle of this 2 years consultation process, which is about building awareness, understanding, and policy development, leading to the adoption of the recommendation by UNESCO member states in 2021. It will be guided by a multi-stakeholder open science advisory committee, which is already in place. And the process is supported through a global comprehensive open science partnership. And this is going to lead us to open science community of practice across the world. I will show you some of the work which is already done. Next, please. So this is the timeline. As right now, we are into this month of August. We have started the process earlier this year, but of course, I have given you the genesis, which is even from 2011. So that's where there is already establishment of the steering committee. There are electronic consultations which are happening. The data is being collated from different regions. In September this year, on the 15th of September, there would be a regional consultation in Asia Pacific. So I invite you to be part of that. And also this will continue throughout this year and the next year. And there would be concrete kind of recommendations which will go through the further processes, ultimately for the adoption in November 2021 by UNESCO's General Conference. Next, please. So now some emerging areas which are coming now already. What do we mean by this open science, and what would be the process for that? Of course, there is a global consultation, there is online survey. UNESCO's member states are involved, UNESCO's field offices like our office in Jakarta, our UNESCO centers, UNESCO chairs, and UNESCO partners are working together towards this statement. Next, please. So these are some of the first few results coming from the surveys from different regions. The first one is we must define what are the common principles and core values of open science. There is a need for raising awareness and communicating on open science. Investing in open science, considering financial implications of open science and developing sustainable open science business models. Next, please. In Asia Pacific, right from the last year, we have been working on consulting with stakeholders about open science societies, the fourth industrial revolution, and the SDGs. There are some reports already available from UNESCO Office Jakarta, which we are very happy to share. Next, please. Next, please. So we have already identified with our stakeholder, there are a number of risks, but there are many opportunities. So hopefully in today's discussion, some of those risks and opportunities for partnerships will come through. Next, please. And what are the needs for the capacity building? And how do we engage through an open platform, through an e-platform for progressing open science in the region, linking academia, the scientific institutions, the policy makers, the United Nations system, and the entrepreneurs. Next, please. So there is a pamphlet available, downloadable from our website, UNESCO Office Jakarta, which already gives us some of the considerations which are at the regional and national levels. And this can be one of the inputs, but this is just part of the process. Next, please. So this is my last slide. Today's webinar and consultation, we see it very, very important for the process. We also look forward to further participations from the science partners. That's where we have this open science partnership webinar, which is organized for the 15th of September. Our Assistant Director General of Science, Madam Shamila, as well as the Director of the Policy and Capacity Building Unit, Madam Peggy, they will also join us. The registration is open on until the 31st of August. And this today's webinar, I'm sure will also provide input towards open science. So if I can conclude, we need to carefully understand the concept, its implications from the legal and policy side, its financial implications, the financial models which can be there, what does it mean for different nations, and how do we build the standards at the global level which are acceptable to all nations and different players in science. But this is not only this area for the scientists themselves. How science becomes available to society, it underpins the Sustainable Development Goals. It provides the necessary evidence for dealing with the big challenges we are facing. With that, I thank you all, and I look forward to the discussions today. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Shahbaz, for that insightful presentation on UNESCO's global role in open science, especially on UNESCO's global recommendation for science. So I think it's very important to note that open science will be able to make science more connected to societal needs by promoting equal opportunities. And also open science would allow bridging for science, technology, and the innovation gap. So thank you very much.